know what I don't get?
What did you get, Cassandra?
Immediacy.
What's immediacy?
I don't know.
Oh guys, I just finished printing the PowerPoint from Michelle Guest, explaining about immediacy. You want me to read it for you?
Please.
Yes, please. Immediacy is the ability of the counselor/helper to use the immediate solution to invite the client to look at what is going on between them in their relationship. It's often feel risky and unfamiliar. It implies the use of the present tense, and it's the most powerful skills in counseling.
When do you use it?
Actually, you use it in two ways, when it's related to that client, or when you need to build build trust with clients.
Wow.
That's great. Awesome. Thanks so much. Hi, Paige. Welcome. I'm here to talk about your overbearing mother. Yes? You want to tell me about that?
So we just had a rough week. I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't meet her satisfaction of the level of work she wanted me to do. And then in the end, she ended up going, well, I probably should have just done this myself.
Right. Have you thought about maybe having a meaningful conversation with your mother? Or?
No, that's never once crossed my mind to try to talk to my mom.
Well, maybe that's a good option that you should explore, and you should have a conversation with your mother about how you're feeling.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I'm sorry, we're out of time for today, so maybe we can pick up next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'll make an appointment.
Perfect.
So Paige, how's it going today?
It's actually going pretty well. It's been a really laid back and chill day.
Oh, nice. Did you
Yeah.
get much done on the weekend?
Yeah, I was able to actually go outside and hang out with my friends, and it was spectacular.
That's awesome. So has there been any more stress? You've been feeling good? You sound like you've been feeling good.
Oh, 100%. I'm feeling so great. It's a complete 180.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think helped you with that?
Honestly, I don't actually know.
Oh, well, I'm just happy you're feeling better, because I know the last time we spoke, you're feeling a little stressed, and I tried my best. You can only do so much,
Yeah, I know. You did a really good effort.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But I'm happy you're feeling better. That's great.
Well, thank you
Have
so
you been
much.
hanging out with
So now we're going to look at what went right and what went wrong. So their interview environment was correct. The chairs were angled for proper eye contact, offered a quiet space with no interruptions or distractions. Interviewer asked relevant questions, and the interviewer also nodded her head and spoke at a moderate tone.
Now let's take a look at what didn't go so well in the interview. First, you can notice the interviewer playing with her pen and writing too much rather than focusing directly on the client. Because the interviewer was focusing more on writing, the interviewer appears to be more disengaged from the client and the whole interview itself. You can also notice the SSW missed some important signs of annoyance and aggravation that was coming from the client with their tone of voice and their body language. When the interviewer suggested talking to the client's mother, you can see that the client replied in a sarcastic tone and even an eye roll from annoyance and aggravation. By missing the signs of the eye roll and the sarcastic tone, the interviewer is unable to successfully help the client because they are missing that key information disregarding these signs. This also leads to the lack of rapport being built between the client and SSW because the client may feel as though they are really not being listened to. The SSW also cut off the interview at the end without helping the client receive any form of closure until the next session. For the second video, as demonstrated, immediacy was not being used correctly. When watching the video, the client's needs are not being met, as the interaction and conversation between the SSW and the client was very casual. The use of immediacy would have benefited the situation because the SSW should have recognized the relationship was too close and no longer a professional one. The use of immediacy would have also allowed the SSW to address the issue and help resolve the relationship between the two.
Okay, Elena, so you came to see me today because you wanted to discuss your overbearing mother. Why don't you give me some details on that?
So she's just really controlling of every single aspect and thing in my life. So like when I'm cooking, she'll come in and tell me the proper way to do things, doing laundry, sweeping the floor, mopping. She just always has to give her 2 cents on how like she would do it or how she wants it done.
Oh, okay. So have you ever considered sitting down and trying to have a meaningful conversation with your mother about how this bothers you?
No, never even occurred to me.
So I'm noticing some changes in your tone and your body language. Did I say something that offended you?
Yeah, I just think, like it's kind of obvious to try and sit down and talk to her. It's just like I've tried and it's just useless.
Okay, no worries. So in this space, you are free to express your opinion, and if you think something I say isn't going to work, then you're free to tell me that. So why don't we sit down and instead try and write some goals from your perspective on how we can confront your mother about being overbearing. Have you ever thought of any suggestions?
I've thought about like moving in with my dad part-time, so I don't have to really like be around her too often, but I would feel really bad if I did that.
Oh, okay. Have you spoken to your father about this?
Yeah, he knows what's going on.
Okay, so I can tell that you're getting a little sad about this topic. Is it just about moving with your father? Are you feeling some guilt maybe?
Yeah, I would just feel really, really guilty if I did that.
Okay, well, I think if you let your mother know your boundaries and why you are moving in with your father, and this would help relieve some of that guilt, because then she's aware of why you're moving, and then she can work on her own self and how to mend this relationship between you so she's not so overbearing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, perfect. So next week I was thinking we can go over some more of these goals, and maybe this week you can talk more in depth with your father about moving in.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Okay, perfect. Nice seeing you, Alana.
Thank you.
Now let's discuss what went right. As said for the first video, the environment was appropriate and it created a safe space for the client. The interviewer's body language is open and her focus remains on the client instead of on her notebook and pen. The interviewer nods her head and holds eye contact, which shows to the client that she is demonstrating active listening. Because the interviewer is actively observing the client, she's able to see and notice any changes that the client is making in her body language, her facial expressions, and her tones of voice. Now focusing on immediacy, the interviewer properly notices a shift in the client's tone, facial expression, and body language. As I said before, that's due to because she was actively listening and observing her client and any changes she was making. The interviewer is able to work with the client and use the client's emotions in order to find a solution to her overbearing mother. By recognizing the client's frustration, the interviewer is able to find a way to create goals with the client in a way that makes sense for them to feel empowered and in control, as it is clear that they are not totally in control at home. Then later on in the interview, when the interviewer sees the client becoming increasingly sad, they are able to remind the client that they are in a safe space and that they are free to talk about anything that they want to talk about with them. The interviewer also successfully analyzes how the client is feeling and does not hesitate to make note of it, which works in the interviewer's favor because the client is able to speak open and honest about their opinions and how they're actually feeling. In this specific case, with an overbearing mother, by the interviewer encouraging the client to speak freely, it helps the client to feel more confident within having their own voice that they can use to express their feelings, which might not be accepted or capable of happening while they're at home. By doing this, the interviewer builds trust and rapport with the client and will most likely continue sessions with this client because of the rapport that they were able to build while they were using their immediacy skills.
What went wrong?
By recognizing the client's frustration, the interviewer is, I skipped a line.
Let's take a look at what didn't go so well in the interview. focusing more on writing, the interviewer